So my name is Magdalena Mosanya. I am psychology lecturer at the Middlesex University in Dubai, in United Arab Emirates. And together with Professor Anna Kwiatkowska from Polish Institute of Psychology of Polish Academy of Sciences, we have been researching multicultural identities and their relationship with functioning of multicultural individuals, as well as pro-ecological attitudes and engagement. So we are presenting a chunk of our exploration, which is titled Pro-ecological attitudes of non-Western third culture kids, the impact of socio-demographic factors and values. Welcome. Let me walk you through the agenda for today's presentation. I'm going to set the context for our discussion, presenting ecological issues of 21st century and linking them with multiculturalism. Further, I'm going to present the two theoretical frameworks that we have incorporated as a background to our study. And after, we're going to present the empirical findings as well as a discussion. Welcome. So ecological problems of the 21st centuries has increasingly been focused on by international leaders and has been taking a very important place in international agendas. And together with geographical dispersion of ecological problems, we can see that tackling them requires global engagement. What are the matters included in ecological problems? Mostly we can talk about the survival of biodiversity, global warming, as well as sustainable consumption. And world leaders as well as scholars are calling for increased awareness and pro-ecological sustainable consumptions. Behind such pro-ecological behaviors lies pro-ecological attitudes. And these were the objective of our study. What do they mean? They mean, or they reflect a certain will for sustainable consumption, production, management of the resources to ensure the prosperity of other beings and future generations. Another paradigms which is arising in 21st century, defined by cultural diversity and global mobility. It is resulting from globalization, and we can see that there is more and more multicultural individuals living around the world who internalize more than one culture. And among such so-called cross-cultural individuals, third culture kids who are characterized by high mobility during their developmental years, which results in their complex identities, multilingualism, but also cross-cultural abilities, positive diversity beliefs, as well as global mindset. And we are hypothesizing that they also might be exerting more concern about global issues, including the most urgent ecological problems. United Arab Emirates is a Gulf country, a hub to multicultural population, and through its fast growth and industrialization in recent decades, it attracted many expatriates coming from all around the world. Therefore, the ratio between the native population and expatriate is now 1 to 9, suggesting it's truly multicultural society, and most of the youth within that country can be called third culture kids. The fast growth also led UAE to having one of the largest carbon footprints in the world, and it looks like the effect of global warming can have a really dire consequences to UAE coastline. Therefore, many actions have been taken to prevent ecological degradation, and there is also a need to increase the pro-ecological attitudes among populations living in this multicultural society. There are a couple of frameworks which for recent decades were trying to explain and tackle the problem of pro-ecological attitudes, linking them with different factors, including these psychological ones. And one of such a framework is the new environmental paradigm developed by Dunlap and Year, which was an answer to gradually changing mindset of the people in the second half of the 20th century after a very strong industrialization. It reflected a slow yet unavoidable realization that the world is not endless and humans do not possess absolute supremacy over it. people started to realize the scarcity of resources. And NEP has placed people as dependent on their biosphere and in close and reciprocal relationship with it. Within the NEP paradigm, the degradation of the environment is therefore explained as a byproduct of actions taken by people to increase their quality of life, comfort, security. And we probably can all resonate with that explanation. And to assess pro-ecological attitudes, Dunlap and Van Leer develop a scale which assumes two polarized dimensions of human attitudes related to ecology. One cluster around pro-ecological mindset and the other cluster around human-centric perspective. And multiple researchers have confirmed NEP as a valid measure of ecological attitudes, as well as a good measure to predict pro-ecological behaviors and behavioral intentions. What factors are impacting pro-ecological attitudes and behaviors? We have grouped them in two different clusters. One, reflecting socio-demographic factors, which are very often discussed in literature as important predictors of if people are engaging in pro-ecological behaviors or not. And within these socio-demographic factors, age was seen as one of the strongest predictors of environmental care, but some of the studies were inconclusive. Additionally, gender has also been seen as impacting the pro-ecological mindset, with females presenting more pro-environmental attitudes and being predominantly green consumers. Women were also seen as more engaged in pro-ecological actions, with fast developing areas of ecofeminism. Further, another socio-demographic factor is religion, as seen to significantly predicts attitudes formation. And here studies have pointed to monotheistic religions, including Judeo-Christian religion beliefs, suggesting that they might decrease the pro-environmental attitudes. It is explained by the fact that within these particular religious approaches, environment is seen as to be made to be exploited by humanity. And therefore, there is an inclination of the followers towards anthropocentric perspective, a certain supremacy over the nature. A similar approach has been seen within Islam, yet there is a growing participation of Muslim theology into creating what is called Islamic ecology and to change such attitudes. Quite the reverse, interesting findings were proposed by Egbert and Blocher, who said that pro-environmental effects of religious participation could be observed as contrary to a certain dogma. So probably spiritually may affect attitudes differently than dogmas. On the contrary, Eastern religions, including Buddhism and Hinduism, have been noticeably linked to positive attitudes towards environmental needs. In Buddhism, the word for religion is also used to name all living creatures like animals, plants, which reflects the assumption that environment is indistinguishable from religion. Buddhism's philosophy by itself highlights the universal interconnection between all forms of life and mutual respect for nature. Therefore, we might say that Buddhism could predispose its followers to ecocentric attitudes and mindset, but more studies is needed. Hinduism is also positively related to environmentalists, despite its strict and hierarchical character. Hinduism has been seen to be motivational for ecological activists in India. A quite contrary perspective has been brought by Kuhn in his recent studies, who suggested that Christian teachings could motivate for nature preservation as the world created by God is regarded as good and worthy care. Contrastingly, the teachings of Buddha might promote ideas that the world and the nature as anything else within that particular philosophical approach will deteriorate, which might be demotivating to conservational practices. As we can see, there are some inconsistencies within theory, which also motivate for further explorations. Another cluster of factors which we wanted to discuss over here are psychological aspects, and here values are some of those most often pointed to. Values impact attitudes, and of course, pro-ecological mindset is no exception. But the impact of values is rarely conscious. And we have taken as our theoretical framework Shalom Schwartz model, in which he defined values as desirable trans-situational goals varying in importance, which serve as guiding principles in the life of a person or other social entity. And values are ingrained in the basic human needs. And although values have a universal structure, there are significant differences in their load for different individuals and communities. Here is the module of values proposed by Shalom Schwartz, in which we can see that values cluster around 10 specific groups. Self-direction, which is motivated by creativity, power related to social status, tradition related to respect, conformity related to obedience, security based on harmony, achievement on success, hedonims on pleasure, stimulation rooted in excitement seeking, universalism related to justice and broad-mindedness, and benevolence related to loyalty, kindness, and responsibility. And Shalom Schwartz further proposed to cluster them into 4 groups, and we have used those dimensions in our studies. And we can see openness to change as one dimension, focus on self-direction, self-transcendence encompassing universalism, benevolence, conservation related to conformity, security, tradition, and self-enhancement driven by achievement, hedonism, and power. Schwartz created some universal tools which have been validated across different cultures to measure values, and we have used a portrait value questionnaire. Research continuously revealed the complexity of the pro-ecological attitudes with many conflicting factors shaping such mindset. And furthermore, studies have shown that any attitude, including pro-ecological, have implications for more than one value, which means several values are expressed in one attitude. That brings us to justification for our study. So the lack of consensus on the impact of socio-demographic factors on pro-environmental attitudes motivates exploration research, especially among underrepresented non-Western multicultural individuals. Additionally, studies linking religious beliefs to life behaviors are also timely. And to address these gaps and taking as a background established theoretical theories, we have formulated following aims. We wanted to explore possible predictors of pro-ecological attitudes for non-Western TCKs, considering social demographic characteristics, gender, age, religion, and psychological aspects of value dimensions. We formulated hypotheses based on this vast literature review, which were first one, we hypothesized that there will be significant differences in level of pro-ecological attitudes between men and women. Furthermore, there will be significant differences among religious groups, with Eastern religions scoring the highest. And also, we have implemented modeling of a prediction of all of these important clusters of factors, including socio-demographic in first model and a value system in the second model, as predictive to pro-ecological engagement. Our participants were 399 international students who consider themselves third culture individuals based on a given definition by Pollock and colleagues. We have included a revised neo-ecological paradigm scale and portrait value questionnaire. Our participants were coming from 46 non-Western countries and were living in the United Arab Emirates. So they were coming from one society, majority being Indian passport holders. The study has been approved by a university ethics committee, and we have collected data online. We have incorporated a quantitative questionnaire-based cross-sectional approach, and with one-way ANOVA, independent sample t-text, and hierarchical multiple regression analysis, we have tested our 3 hypotheses. The results of independent sample t-test assessing the first hypothesis have approved our hypothesized differences between the genders in the level of pro-ecological attitudes. So our hypothesis was confirmed. one way ANOVA has revealed significant differences also among religious group in our sample, with Buddhists and Hinduists scoring the highest on pro-ecological attitudes. Our hierarchical regression analysis, which included socio-demographic factors of age, language, gender, and religion in the first model, and self-transcendence, self-enhancement, openness to change, and conservation in the second model, have also revealed significant findings, with our second model explaining 24% of the variation in pro-ecological attitudes, with the most important predictors of pro-ecological attitudes being values, especially the transcendent related values. So in order to sum up our findings, multicultural individuals inclined towards ecocentrism, which supports our thesis that global leadership competences and global mindset can serve also moving from anthropocentric approach to ecocentric approach among multicultural individuals. Furthermore, we also presented that female are more engaged, they're having the more pro-ecological attitudes, and that also is being supported by a previous study, and we just extended it to multicultural individuals. Furthermore, we have seen that religion could be moderating the level of environmentalism, and that suggestion was also validated positively. We can say that while monotheistic religions rooted in dogmas on human supremacy and therefore reflect more anthropocentric attitudes, Buddhism and Hinduism can be more pro-environmentalistic. Findings related to our values were the most strongly supporting the idea that values could mediate pro-ecological attitudes. We have found that there was a positive impact of values related to transcendence, and means universalist and benevolent, and they reflect unity with nature and understanding and appreciation and tolerance and protection of the welfare of the people.
Sorry, we have time to another colleague.
Okay,
yes.
Indeed. Okay, sorry. So thank you very much, and I will be very glad to answer any questions related to that in the chat box. Thank you.